Okay, time to try something a bit different today. I'm a huge fan of Taskmaster. It's a great show. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And today I'm going to be doing a tier list of all the contestants of the UK series, at least. Right from Series 1 up to whatever series we're on now. I think the 17th was the latest one. Now, when it comes to tier lists, probably pays to be a bit critical, but I have to admit I'm pretty I'm a pretty positive sort of person, so there aren't going to be many people going in the 1 point category, I can tell you. Also, if I was going to be objective, I would probably make a bit more of an effort to make this list about the comedians and their performances strictly on Taskmaster, but I have a lot of preconceived notions and preferences amongst these comedians from their work outside of Taskmaster, and I have to admit that will be a factor. I'll try not to make it too much of a factor and focus strictly on their performances in Taskmaster, but I can tell you now there will be at least a few comedians who get a higher rating here because of their work outside of Taskmaster. But yeah, I'm never claiming to be particularly objective. Okay, let's start with Season 1. Possibly not my favourite season. I think it took a little bit of time to get going. But, I mean, it's all good. And like I say, I'm pretty positive, so everyone on here is going to get a decent rating. Let's start with Tim Key. And yeah, he's kind of middle of the road for me. I think 3 points. Absolutely nothing against him. I just didn't find him that amusing, and I don't mind his work in other stuff. He's quite a good interviewer. He has a bit of a persona of awkwardness, which I appreciate. But yeah, on Taskmaster, I don't really remember him that well. Same with Frank Skinner, actually. I'm going to put him on 3 points too. Just not that memorable. I don't know if it's because it was the first season or just because of my personal tastes. He's also someone that I don't really like all that much outside of Taskmaster. Again, nothing against him, but I'm not a huge fan. Roisin Conady, definitely higher than those two. I think 4 points. She's pretty silly. Embraced the tasks quite well, I thought. Josh Widdicombe, definitely one of the standouts of the series. Went on to win that first series, of course. Who can forget his task counting the baked beans and everything else, and his anger. Speaking of anger, Romesh, one of the grumpiest contestants so far, also a standout of that first series, I think. Joe Wilkinson, absolute nutcase. Very funny. 5 points. Richard Osman, kind of the opposite of Joe Wilkinson. Pretty cool, calm and collected. Came up with some good ideas. And it's kind of cool to see someone that dignified engaging with Taskmaster. 4 points, I think. Doc Brown, not someone I know outside of Taskmaster at all. It was pretty good, I think. But again, not super memorable to me. Jon Richardson, definitely a classic. One of the comedians I identify with most due to his awkward persona and somewhat OCD tendencies. Catherine Ryan. Yeah, I like her. Not as memorable as some others, but pretty good. Okay, Series 3. Now we start getting onto the really good contestants, and as you can see, I've already put people relatively high. No 2 or 1 points. I don't know if there will be anyone in the 1 point category. I think we'll see. I think there will be 2, but we'll see. I don't even know how many there'll be in the 2 point category. Rob Beckett, I like. Could be 5 points, but I think 4 points. Sarah Pascoe, another one I really like outside of Taskmaster. So I'll try to be a bit objective here. I'll just put in 3 points because, yeah, I don't think she was the best on the show, but yeah, I do really like her in other contexts. Al Murray, Moneybags Murray, used his cash reserves to win some tasks. Not necessarily the funniest of people on the show. I don't remember his name. It's Paul Chowdhury? Yeah, Paul Chowdhury. Grumpiness goes a long way towards making someone appealing in the show. I mean, we all like to see people suffer as long as it's for comedic value. And he was pretty good in that role. Dave Gorman, again, someone that I actually really like outside of Taskmaster. I think some of his TV shows are really good. But yeah, actually on the show, it's in the middle of the range, I think. Hugh Dennis. Yeah, roughly the same, I think. I mean, I like him in other things, but not the most memorable Taskmaster competitor. Wally Adefope. Yeah, one step above Hugh, I think. This was also a pretty good series. Joe Lycett, definite 5 points. Noel Fielding. Noel Fielding kind of irritates me. Not going to lie. He will be my first 2-pointer. I know a lot of people love him. I find him a bit pretentious. On the other hand, Mel Giedroyc, the picture of non-pretentiousness. She was great. Mark Watson. Tough one. I kind of like his bumbling persona. Has some good comic value to it. Aisling Bea, I really like her. Yeah, pretty good on Taskmaster. Okay, Nish Kumar, and actually, see, this was. I'll definitely put him at 5 points. I feel bad not putting Mark on the same tier as him because they really formed an excellent comedic duo, particularly with that song. If you know that series, what was it? I'm always seeing you do cool stuff. It's possibly the best task on Taskmaster in terms of how many points I would have given them. I would have given them 6 points. A bonus for being just excellent. Sally Phillips, absolutely insane in ways that you would not expect. Bob Mortimer, I find a little bit overrated. Not only on Taskmaster, but in general. I mean, he's one of the most popular comedians in England. People love his surreal humour. And I do too, but not quite as much as other people do. Okay, what series are we up to? After that, there was a Champion of Champions, so everyone came back. Okay, Series 6. Alice Levine. Didn't really know her at all before this, but she made a very positive impression on me. Asim Chowdhury. Again, not someone I knew a huge amount about. But yeah, this is a tough one because it could easily be 3 or 4, but I think on balance 3. Tim Vine, great. It's a bit off the wall. What is his name? I know it so well. Russell Howard, of course. Yeah, he was competitive, which is something that I don't necessarily value that much in Taskmaster, but he did a good job. And Lisa Tarbuck, much more insane than I expected. Much better at the game. Yeah. Okay, Series 7. I think a lot of people would agree that this was the best series. There's absolutely no one here that I didn't absolutely love, uh, including some of my all-time favourites, starting with James Acaster, who will be my first of the favourites. Perfect mix of competitiveness, awkwardness, incompetence, and anger, and some of the best moments with the Taskmaster, I felt. Same with Rhod. This was a great series. Rhod, good shot of being my favourite of all the competitors. Yeah, his conflicts with James were, basically the peak of the series. And the other three of this series were all great. Phil Wang was completely insane and incompetent in the best way. Kerry Godwinman, extremely competent, won that series, I think, and hilarious. Same with Jessica Knappett. Who could forget her falling off the stage, which is now called the Knappett, of course. Yeah, I think on the whole that is the best series. That's probably the best rankings that, on the whole, the series competitors will get. This is there's a few people in this series that I knew very little about. Joe Thomas being one of them. Apparently, he was in the Inbetweeners. Knew nothing about him, but he was absolutely hilarious on this series, I thought. Same with Lou Sanders, one of the most unhinged of competitors. Ian Sterling. He got a lot of flack for being overly competitive. I didn't see it that way. I thought he was, competitive, yeah, but I don't know. I thought it was mainly for comic effect, and I found it quite comical. Sian Gibson, yeah. See, someone again I didn't really know. Yeah, look, she was good, but not the most memorable. Kind of overshadowed by the other people in that group, I think. Same with Paul Sinner to some extent. Now, he's gone on record as saying that, his performance was obviously very poor. He was probably the most incompetent, definitely one of the most incompetent contestants, which, again, I don't mind. I do not care. This list is obviously not based on how many points they got or how well they did in their series. It is just on how funny I found them, which I think is the whole point of the series. And yeah, he went on record saying, this series was filmed just before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and it was obviously affecting him. So he gets some sympathy points there. And it was amusing to see him fumble, although in retrospect, a bit sad. But yeah, not necessarily the funniest of the competitors. Rose Matafeo, good to see someone from Down Under. Solid competitor, pretty funny. Katie Wicks, yeah. Again, it's tough. I should point out I'm just putting these within the tier in either the order in which they came, or I'll try to make it, the order in which they appeared rather than just random, but it's definitely not arranged by how much I like them within each tier. Jo Brand I like a lot. She cops a bit of flack. She wasn't necessarily the best in this series. I don't know. She's old, and she was with David Baddiel. I think that, pulls her down a bit. Ed Gamble, on the other hand, was also with David Baddiel a bit in the team tasks, and his anger made him one of my favourite competitors, and some of my favourite moments are his responses to David Baddiel. And speaking of David Baddiel, my first one-pointer, I didn't find it particularly funny, and I really think he kind of half-assed that series. He didn't really commit to it. I'm almost tempted to put him in 2 points just because of how many hilarious moments with Ed Gamble he was the the cause of. But yeah, I can't really credit him for that. Okay, and by coincidence, we have my other one-pointer, Daisy May Cooper. Her personality really annoys me. She's sort of the opposite of me. I shouldn't say really annoys me. She doesn't really annoy me. Honestly, I like all the people in this list. I want to stress that. But yeah, relatively speaking, just that the insecurity of having that achievement woman costume. Yeah, if you've achieved stuff, you don't really need to put it on costume. Johnny Vegas, an absolute shambles, of course. Pretty funny to watch. Catherine Parkinson, yeah, again, maybe one of the least competent, but pretty amusing to watch. Okay, Richard Herring. Here's the one where I'm going to admit that my opinion of him outside of Taskmaster is going to colour my opinion of him on this list, because as the host of RHLSTP is one of my favourite people in the British comedy scene. He's responsible for simply the best interviews and conversations with other comedians. And he was pretty good on the show. Who could forget his acting performance? Okay, what's his name? I do know it. I know it very well. Marwan Rizwan, that's it. Again, not someone I knew at all before Taskmaster. I've seen some of his stuff. He's actually pretty good. And yeah, he's pretty good on the show. Jamali Maddox. Tough one. Not quite top tier, but generally very amusing. Charlotte Ritchie, again, someone I did not know at all before Taskmaster. Yeah, I think I'll put her at 3 points. Could easily be 4, but I don't know, not quite up there. Sarah Kendall, though, is an easy 4. And not just because she's an Australian. She had a different sort of vibe. Mike Wozniak, another absolutely chaotic contestant. Ooh. See, now I could very easily put him in the favourites, but not quite. Definitely a 5-pointer, though. Just because of how off the wall he was. And he's, again, someone that I didn't know super well. I knew he was in that sitcom with Greg Davies. Was it Man Down? That's all I knew him from. And I've only seen a few episodes of that. But yeah, I think he definitely internationally, he got a rise in fame after Taskmaster. Lee Mack, thanks to What I Lie to You, one of my absolute favourite comedians on the planet. In terms of Taskmaster, though, not quite enough to get him into the 5-point position. Okay, another particularly good series, this one, I thought. Victoria Coren Mitchell. Again, good to see someone really incompetent in, well, she's incredibly smart, but yeah, not necessarily all that good at the tasks. Okay, 3 points, but could easily have been 4. Alan Davies, 4 points. Yeah. Again, I absolutely love him. I have long associations of him with QI. But yeah, not quite earning the 5 points. Unlike Desiree Birch, another one who I'd never heard of before. Well, I had heard of her, but knew very little about her. And an American who did incredibly well. And some of the best moments on the show. Morgana, absolutely brilliant. Another chaotic one. I think I have to put her in the favourites just because she has this incredible charm. And again, not just because she's Australian, although born in Australia, lived mainly in the UK. Kaz Khan, yeah, look, this was a really good series. He was great. Um, yeah, Instincts is 5 points. It's not the most memorable, but I could almost put him in 4 points. But no, I think 5 points. Just that whole series, they had a great chemistry, I thought. Ardle, yes. Hilarious. I only knew him from Father Ted. I had no idea what he was really like. It turns out he is a bit like his character. I'm sure he's not really. I'm sure it's largely a persona, but yeah, a bit. He comes across as a bit of an airhead. I'm sure he's not, but he was hilarious. Sophie Duker, yeah, she was really good. Another incredibly charming young woman. Plenty of surprises. I did not know her particularly well. In fact, of this series, I mean, of all the series, this series probably had the comedians I know the least. Chris Ramsey, I don't know if I'd ever even heard of him. But again, he was genuinely hilarious. Bridget Christie, even more hilarious, even more chaotic. Another chaotic competitor goes up into the favourites list. I guess that's what I like most. Those ones who surprise and are just completely insane. Judy Love, yeah, look, I think that means that, yeah, I mean, this series has one favourite and 4 on 5 points, so maybe that makes it the best series in terms of rankings. Although Series 7 has 2 in the favourites. Yeah, Series 7 is still winning. Just. I mean, not that that's an objective measure. Okay, Dara O'Brien, possibly my favourite stand-up comedian of all time. One of my favourite comedians. And this is where I am going to be a bit more objective because I did not find him all that great on Taskmaster. I was a little bit disappointed. I mean, he was still very good. No, I'll stick with 3 points. Could easily be 4, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh because I kind of expected him to be more amusing. Sarah Millican was great. Yeah, that singing moment was quite touching. It was amazing how clearly she obviously hated doing it. Munya Chihuahua? It's not Chihuahua. It's Chihuahua. Yeah, it is Chihuahua. Actually, not my favorite. I mean, he was still good, but it's just, I don't know. I feel so guilty ranking people low, but yeah, it's just absolutely nothing against him. He's just a bit less funny than everyone above him. Fern Brady, kind of a tough one. Yeah, I'll put her fourth because, again, because of how unhinged she comes across at times, and she's talked about being autistic, and it kind of comes across, I guess, if you know what you're looking for. But it makes for good viewing, if I can say that without sounding patronising or condescending. John Kearns. Now, again, someone I didn't know much about. The only thing I really knew about him before Taskmaster was his appearance on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown in Dictionary Corner. And a lot of times in the YouTube comments on those videos, the people in Dictionary Corner will get a lot of criticism. And I usually defend them because I usually think they're great. John Kearns is the one person in Dictionary Corner that I thought was genuinely bad. I did not like the character he was playing. I did not like his persona. But on this show, yeah, he was great. Yeah. I generally cannot tell how much of his persona is just an act. He seems to genuinely have some self-esteem issues, but it's tough to know. But if he does, giving him that sabotage your team task was possibly cruel, but also hilarious. I could not help feeling sorry for him, though. Frankie Boyle, I've watched a lot of him before Taskmaster on Mock the Week, some of his stand-up. I have mixed feelings about him. He's obviously one of those left-wing snowflakes, like me, I might add. So I pretty much agree with most of his political views, but his humour does stray towards being cruel at times, and unnecessarily so, in my opinion. But on Taskmaster, he came across as just really nice and a bit of a doddering old man like myself. So there's a few things I identify with there. So it's a tough one. I think 4 points. Ivo Graham, his foil. I have to put him in the favourites because he was so polite with Frankie. That task with they're handcuffed together and there's padlocks and they have to get the code, and Frankie's going off with completely the wrong idea, and Ivo is trying to restrain himself. That was hilarious. Jenny Eclair, pretty nuts. Solid 4, I think. Mae Martin, not someone I knew much about. It's sort of a side topic, but great to see a non-binary person on TV and everyone respecting their pronouns. I'm not giving them 5 points just for that. They really were pretty funny and great competitor. Had some real surprising moments. That doll of Greg that they brought in for the prize task, that was fantastic. Kyle, again, someone I knew nothing about. Bit overshadowed by the other people in this series, I think. Not my favourite, but, pretty good. Julian Clary, okay. I've known Julian Clary going back decades. I think he was a little bit too aloof to really stand out in this show. And some of his cutting insults to Alex Horne were pretty great, though. Lucy Beaumont, absolute nuts. Another chaotic one. Not quite in the favourites, but could be. Not quite. Susan Wokoma, someone I never heard of before. She was pretty good. Her partnership with Sue Perkins was good. Not super memorable, but 3 points. Could have been 4. Okay, Sam Campbell. I can't scroll up. That's going to be problematic. I've put him in the favourites, and that's 2 Australian-borns up there. I didn't really know much about him, but he's got a very unusual persona, which works particularly well for Taskmaster. Sue Perkins, her partnership with Susan Wokoma was great. 4, I think. Somewhere around there. Okay, now a series with a couple of people that I don't know, or didn't know at all, and still struggle to remember their names. Joanne McNally, never heard of her. I don't know, this series is the most recent one, and the more recent series, the casts have still been excellent, but I don't know. I wonder if the whole show's running out of steam a little bit. I mean, there's only so many tasks that you can come up with that are good and interesting. But I don't know. She was still. I think this series was still good. I enjoyed it, but perhaps no real standouts amongst this cast. I'll put her in 3. John Robbins is someone I actually knew relatively well before Taskmaster, at least partially because he does a golf series on YouTube with Alex Horne. They're friends in real life and have played a lot of golf. And it's quite amusing. And for a long time on that channel, they would make jokes about why has John not been on Taskmaster yet? Well, now he finally is. And he dominated that series in terms of victories. I think he was pretty good. Not top tier, but yeah, pretty good. And honestly, same with Nick Mohammed. Nick Mohammed, at first I thought his characters were annoying. He does Mr. Swallow. Took a bit of time to grow on me. But no, he was good in this. Steve Pemberton, okay. League of Gentlemen, Psychoville, Inside Number 9. Particularly League of Gentlemen and Psychoville are 2 of my favourite TV shows of all time, so I was really excited to see him on the show. He didn't perform particularly well. But he is watchable. Yeah, I'll give him a 4. Same with Sophie Wilman, I think. She was... Yeah, everyone in this series was just not that memorable. And Sophie Wilman, again, I think she's one of the very few that I'd literally never even heard of. I did not recognize her name at all. But yeah, she was good. Just not brilliant. I might put her in 3, just because I don't find her that memorable. And that's it. Okay, let's have a look at the whole lot. Yeah, now is there anything here that I disagree with greatly on second look? I don't think so. You can tell I've been pretty positive here. Only 2 in the 1 point, only 2 in the 2 point. And honestly, looking at this, I feel like everyone could go a tier higher because I just like everyone. There's no one I dislike. Even the 1 pointers, I don't actively dislike them. Although Daisy May Cooper did get on my nerves, particularly when she was getting genuinely angry at Richard Herring, who was one of my favourites. Yeah, and David Baddiel just phoning it in like that. Can't remember exactly what it was. There was a task where he had to write a song, and he just scribbled something out in 5 minutes, and that was, you know, he's a #1 songwriter who's that 3 lines thing. I don't even know what that is. Something about football. I'm not British. I'm not into football. So, there's my list. What do you reckon? I'm sure there'll be many things you disagree with. Please let me know in the comments, in the off chance anyone actually watches this video. I'm going to upload it to my second channel because this doesn't really fit in my primary channel. And that channel has 9 subscribers and never gets any views, and it's mainly just my live streams. But if you do happen to come across this, and you happen to be a fan of Taskmaster, yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Subscribe to this channel if you want. Subscribe to my main channel. I'll try to remember to put a link in the comments. I'll probably forget. Okay, let's have a look at who's coming up in the next series. Andy Zaltzman, I do not know. Don't know if I've ever heard of him. Babatunde, I'm not sure how to pronounce his second name. I've only ever heard his first name. I have seen him a bit. He's on QI, maybe a few other panel shows. Emma City, never heard of her. I don't think I know her at all. Jack D, I do know. Not a huge fan. He's pretty funny, I guess, but is also, I don't know, not necessarily the best person from what I know. Rosie Jones, on the other hand, I am absolutely looking forward to. I think she will be as chaotic as anyone. And I'm looking forward to the way that she annoys people who don't like her. Because she gets a lot of dislike for no good reason. And I'm looking forward to those people being angered and upset. Not that I encourage that sort of revenge or schadenfreude. Okay, that'll do it for now. I might do another tier list on this channel. I might put it on my primary channel, who knows. Stay tuned, but until next time, get off my lawn. That's what I say on the other channel. Who cares? I'll be back.